My name is Christy Pearson, and this is the TEDxSMU Young Fellow Resources Guide. TEDxSMU created the Young Fellows program back in 2011, and in 2016 we added a hierarchical leadership structure to the program to better help facilitate and differentiate the roles and responsibilities of SMU students and their involvement in TEDxSMU. There were several different organizational communication theories that went into the development of this resource guide. The first is Henry Fayol's classical management theory. The components that were used from Mr. Fayol's theory in the development of the Young Fellows Resource Guide were his 5 fundamental elements of management, which are planning, organizing, command, coordination, and control. In the Young Fellow program, there's a dual component of event planning, management, coordination, and organizing, as well as the responsibility and the duty of curating an audience and creating awareness for programs and the organization of TEDxSMU. Another theory that was used in this resource guide was Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy. The hierarchical leadership structure that was introduced into the Young Fellow program in 2016 is very focused on clearly defining roles, the division of labor, and centralization of communication, as well as autonomy and decision-making power. These are only 3 assets or 3 facets of the bureaucracy theory from Weber. There are 3 components that are missing currently in the Young Fellow system that this resource guide hopes to instill and create. Those 3 missing components would be a closed system to operate within, the importance of rules and regulations, and not so much as restrictive guidelines, but more as elements of standards and presence, and since we're an outward-facing community and program. The last facet of bureaucracy would be the functioning of authority. The desire of this resource guide is to help create a traditional authority leadership style in the Young Fellow program, and that means that the power and the authority that is actually vested in the position, not necessarily the person. We're in a university, we have students who come in and out of our doors every 4 years. So it's really important that we create a system and a hierarchical structure that lasts beyond that 4 years. The last theory that I'd like to mention at this time is the leader membership exchange theory. And the reason this theory is important is because this resource guide and this new hierarchical structure that the Young Fellow leadership created was a collaborative idea, and it continues to be a collaborative development component of our program. It's something that this resource guide specifically is going to be a living, breathing document that is going to be modified and adapted to the Young Fellow program as it grows and develops. So the Young Fellow resource guide is actually printed to my right here. I'm not going to go through all the different components because it divulges information about the history of TED, the history of the TEDx program, and how the TEDx program functions like a franchise. It goes through the history of TEDxSMU, which is the 2nd ever license holder in the TEDx program. It goes through all the different events and conferences that TEDxSMU produces, as well as it goes through the history of the Young Fellow program itself. In this presentation, I'm going to focus more exclusively on the organizational communication theory and components that were used in creating this resource guide. But the purpose of this resource guide is to transfer knowledge from not only the staff of TEDxSMU, but to the Young Fellows, but also to serve as a base knowledge for the Young Fellows to grow and create programs and content for the future for the SMU and Dallas communities. One key component that is really interesting that's in the resource guide is the division between who TEDxSMU is as an organization, quite literally the people that make up TEDxSMU. That is the staff, which we have 2 full-time staff members for TEDxSMU. There's a steering committee which is made up of 6 or 8 members from the Dallas community that are very well connected and have great ideas that are leading our discussions. Of course, the Young Fellows, these are our SMU students who are being our forward-facing branch of TEDxSMU, and they keep us rooted in the university life here at SMU. Of course, we can't have an ideas conference without speakers and presenters and performers, and so they are key people, and they are the faces, quite literally, that our audiences see of TEDxSMU. Of course, nothing would be possible without our partners, our sponsors, and our event collaborators in the community. And then, of course, goes without saying, our audience, our SMU audience, our Dallas audience, and our online audience. TEDxSMU is also a conference. It is the name of our conference and the name of our organization, and we hold many events throughout the year that the Young Fellows are very much involved in. This is an illustration of the Young Fellow hierarchical leadership structure. There's volunteers and general members. The Young Fellows themselves are those who are members of the 4 committees. There's a salon committee that puts on small events, the presenter committee that works with speakers and performers, there's the communications committee, and the logistics committee. There's a chair for each of those committees, and then coordinating all of those committees are the event managers, which there are 2 of those. Supporting the event managers and the committees are, of course, the TEDxSMU staff who serve as advisors to the Young Fellows. There is the reason that the hierarchical structure is illustrated invertedly is because there's a strong belief of servant leadership within the Young Fellow program. We believe that we want to support and lead others, and that just because you have the title of chair doesn't mean that your decision power isn't any less influential in the decision making. We view everyone's decisions as important and equally influential, and we view that those who are in those titled leadership positions as having more responsibility for ensuring that ideas are carried through, that tasks are executed, and that projects are done to a high standard. This is a wonderful picture of a young fellow who is leading a group of Dallas thinkers and doers in a conversation at our annual conference. Also in the resource guide are links and standards listed that help the young fellows know what is the basic knowledge, what is the basic standard, and how they can build on top of that. And it lists best practices as well as ideas of things that have been previously done by not only TEDxSMU but other TEDx events in the area. So as I mentioned before, these are the 3 theories that really helped guide and shape the resources guide. And there are also an additional 4 theories that have kind of come out of the process of making this resource guide that were identified. Obviously, the leader membership exchange theory was mentioned previously, but that's something that, again, we strongly feel that not only this resource guide, but the leadership structure will help continue create this leader membership exchange where the leaders can be members and the members can also be leaders. The initial management approach to change and to communicating change was identify and reply. As a group, we sat down and realized that we were having communication problems. We were having ideas in meetings and on text messages and on apps, and then our ideas weren't being fulfilled. And that was a communication problem we were having. So we identified the problem and we gave ourselves the freedom to reply. We tried this app called TEDxSMU and realized it didn't work, it didn't fit our style, because we had at that point too many mediums and platforms of communication, and it wasn't helping us get our job done, it was not helping our productivity, and it wasn't helping us monitor our project fulfillment. So we underscored and explored. We explored the option for the Todoist app, and it didn't work for us. So our next exploration, we decided that we would create a resources app to help build that foundation knowledge for all of our young fellow members. And our last theory that we're using is the exemplification leadership. That reverts back to our belief in servant leadership. We believe that the leaders, especially those who are in the chair's positions, those who are in the event manager positions, and those who are staff and serve as advisors for the students, that as leaders we are the ultimate servants to our members in the Young Fellows program and the members of our community and our audience, and that we're serving them to our best of our ability through ideas we can communicate through our presenters and what we do on stage and the programs that we curate. I'm going to end with a picture of our Young Fellow students, and thank you for watching our presentation on the Young Fellow Resource Guide for TEDxSMU.